What's up, you guys? This is Off Topic Games here with a Saturday tournament, top four. So we're on top four at the moment. On our left, we have it will be Silver Thorns. You won't see it yet, but it's Silver Thorns. And then on the right, we have Chris from Vanguard Central and Vanguard Central Academy playing Granblue. So obviously, this is after the new support. Both Pale Moon and Granblue got very good, or got a lot of support. So let's see here what they're doing. So Granblue player goes first. To be honest, I'm not very well versed in the new Silver Thorn support, so I don't know what they all do. But the Granblue player rides that new grade 1. I believe he's going to take it out. On the left, the Pale Moon player does the starter skill, so I believe he grabs like a 0, 1, 2, 3 or something and puts in the soul, like a certain amount of cards in the soul. So he puts the lion and something else into the soul. Sorry guys, again I'm not super well versed in the Silverthorn deck or what it does. Generally it just attacks a lot. The grade 1 that he wrote is very good. He just soul charged cards, so that's very good. So swing Vanguard. No guard, because damage. It's a trigger. Ride to grade 2. Rides the Cannoneer. That's pretty good. Like, not a bad ride. It's very interesting. Swings for 9. Calls another Negralacy to be a bit more aggressive. Takes it. Drive checks nothing. Hits a trigger, which is pretty good. And then now it's a 5k guard. But the Pale Moon player takes it anyway, so that's fine. If I can see it correctly, I believe the grade 2 that he just damage checked was the grade 2 Silver Thorn card, I think, from like a while ago. That's interesting. And then he has the on hit that he wrote, which is also very good. Counterblast 1, when it hits, you like call a card, and then it goes back to this, call it like a Silverthorn card, and it goes back to soul at the end of the turn. So that's nice. Is he committing more? No, it doesn't look like it. So it's a 9. Swing at the Vanguard with an on-hit skill. 10 is no pass. I do see a 10k in his hand. I'm curious if he decides to take it or not. No, so it's a no pass. Which is a good play. You gotta like call an extra card and you do another attack. So he drew a Stride Fodder, which is very good on his part to no guard, I guess, or guard, I guess, because if he doesn't have another grade 3, then he can stride a lot easier. So rides the OG Nightrose, which is very good, and calls a Bail the Ghosty and another card, so he's committing somewhat hard, but that's kind of understandable. You kind of have to rush and see what it is if you don't really understand the matchup and whatnot. So, drive check. He no guards it as well, crit boost. So he goes to 5 really, really early. Hits a heal, which is very good on the Pale Moon player's part, because you don't want to go to, 5 that early and still have to guard. So triggers cancel on his 10k guard. Pale Moon player decides to go to 5. That's very interesting. So rides the new Luke here. I know it has a non-stride skill. Again, I'm not entirely sure. Let me just look it up actually right now. You can probably like call a card right when you stride, obviously. So stride's the Luke here from Fighter Selection 1 or 2015, the one where like you put 2 in the soul and you call 2 out. Calls that grade 1, that grade 2 that I talked about earlier. There's Zelma, it's like purple Trapezis for Silver Thorns, and then Lion, which is a very good card. It's like whenever a card goes in soul, it gains plus 3k, or something calls out, you get plus 3k. So calls that grade 1, which is very strong. And then there's double Lion in the front. So I believe that's the Luke here skill. I think that was soul charge 2 triggers, which is kind of unfortunate, but I guess it happens. So Zelma goes in. Zelma gets called out again, and he should be using the skill. Actually, so first he uses the grade 1 skill to call itself out, because it can do that. And then Zelma goes in, Zelma procs, the grade 1 goes back in, and the grade 1 comes out again. So it's basically just getting more powers, as he calls things. So the Lugier on stride skill is when you stride a Silver Thorn card, your Vanguard gets when your unit with Silver Thorn's card name is placed in the rear guard from Soul, that unit gets plus 3,000 power until the end of the turn. So it's kind of like a Lunatic, but I believe it's just +3 instead of +2, which is pretty good because you're just getting a lot of power. Very interesting. So swinging, somewhat biggish. Hits the draw trigger, puts on the side. It's just a draw. So 1 damage, not that bad. I assume the lines are big. So the grade 1 that boosted has skill where you discard, put in the soul, and then you call a card. So he decides to call Zelma, which is interesting. I assume Zelma's going in. So, okay, and then the grade 1 will possibly get called out for Counterblast 1. So he chooses to use Zelma first. Grabs the starter and calls it. That's just like, I actually don't know what that is. I assume that's a counter that he just decided to leave there for some reason. So swings for a certain amount of power that I'm not too sure what it is. Maybe I'll calculate it a little bit more, but it's probably a decently big. This one is also decently big. He decides to boost, yeah. And the Granblue player goes to 4 as well. So they're both pretty high for like one person not even striding. Striding goes first. Ghosty, because you're kind of like, you have a lot of board already and you committed a decent amount, so Ghosty isn't that bad. Decides to mill first, which is generally good. What does he mill? The grade 3, the 16k attacker, as well as maybe a Bale here if he doesn't have one already. No, he has one there. He must not have another Bale available. Maybe that grade 1. If not, another Negro Lazy. It really depends. He already has a lot of board. Maybe like a King Serpent, actually. Unless he already has that drop, which I assume it's not. No, it's not. Yep, King Serpent. So pretty good. Gets the Ghosty grade 1. Generally just setting up for future turns if it's available. I'm not sure if it's better to go into Negros Hungry here just because like you get more attacks off. It really depends. But regardless, setup is also nice. It really depends on like how you see the game going and stuff. I also don't know how many cards is in this drop zone, but setting up isn't terrible, and you get a decent amount of attacks as well because you can go the grade 1 that's already on the board into the grade 3 and then into. Oh, okay, sorry. He's using that to make Negro Lazy good the drop zone, which is very good. Because it like negates the cost, you get an extra soul and so forth. So basically, what I was saying is you use that grade 1 that he's attacking with, the booster, to pop it, get the grade 3, and then the grade 3 will get the Negro Lazy and something else. which is generally pretty strong. So pop should be getting, or lazy. Lazy works too. It's like it doesn't matter what when it goes off, as long as you get one or the other. Yeah, so he'll use that skill. Counter blast 1, soul blast 1, called the okay, so sorry, he has to use the bill first. Actually, he probably doesn't have to use the bill first, but he decides to anyways, which is fine. Uses the Negrelay skill, calls the grade 3. This may be due to like possible cool plays they can do with the stand, which is also fine. That's not bad as well. Decides to attack the Vanguard first. That's very interesting. I don't know if I like 100% agree, but I guess you could always stand the grade 1 instead, which is fine. Uses the PG, drive checks. Stand trigger, there we go. And boosts the side rear guard. I probably don't agree with it because it's only 16. I probably boost the guy all the way in the back right. Unless, yeah, I'd probably boost the grade 1 because normally you'd probably like swing with a grade 3 unboosted and then use its skill, call over, and then swing again unboosted for like 21. But we'll see if it matters here. It really depends. This should be 16 unless he didn't hollow it. It was 16, so he double intercepted. He decides to boost, which I don't know if that's right. Normally, I think you use the... What just happened? Does it work like that? Sorry guys, I'm not entirely sure if it works like that. I thought the grade 3 has to call over itself. Maybe it doesn't. And it's fine. But if it does, then it's like a little bit of a misplay on the Granblue player's part. But let's see. I am looking it up right now. Regardless, he should be dead anyways. It doesn't actually matter if he misplay or not. It's just in terms of like the attacks. But yeah, so the game 1 goes to the Granblue player, and we are now on to game 3. So things that both players can improve on. They both the Pale player got rushed super early, so they got put to 5, and they couldn't keep up with like the hand advantage. And they did have strong plays, but they need to like either guard or have some way of controlling out the Granblue's players like strength and stuff. So either limiting their counterblast or maybe like attacking rear guards early. Generally, that's bad because you're playing against Granblue, but it's not terrible if you're letting it slow down the matchup when your deck doesn't necessarily like deal well with big attacks. Also, cross ride can help. It really depends if like you want the cross ride over the stride break skill. Yeah, Granblue player pretty solid. Attacked early, swung hard, and basically controlled the pace of the game. I think it's Nightstorm. Is it Nightstorm? Okay, so the grade 3 that I used was sorry, Pale player goes first, but the grade 3 that I used is Counterblast 1, GB 1. At the end of the battle, this unit attack the Vanguard. If this unit is hollowed, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose the one card not named itself from the drop zone. Call it to a rear guard. This unit is not on. Okay, so you do it. He did play it right, and yep. So good job. I was wrong. Might be. That looks interesting. Oh, that's a really good soul charge. So the starter soul charge the Zelma, the Lion, and the cross ride, which is pretty good. Draws for turn, draws stand trigger. That's a G assist. That's not a terrible. What does he have? I see a heal, a crit, a stand, something else, and a Nightrose. I assume that's a grade 2, but I don't know which one it is. I think it's King Serpent actually. So he should be the crit and something else. I think that's a Cannoneer. Sorry guys, I can't see completely clearly, so it really depends. Mills or gets rid of the blue heart and a gleam. Also rides the swing. Hit draws or drive checks PG, damage checks PG, whatever. Rides the on hit grade 2. No pass. Yup. Rides or draws that grade 1. Rides King Serpent. Very interesting ride. Over assuming that's kind of near the like all the way there, but I guess it's understandable. It's a heal which is very very strong. So the Granblue player or the Pale Moon player is not getting rushed early this turn because partially because the Granblue player had to G assist and so forth. So that was very unfortunate. And then he had to put the grade 0 behind the Vanguard because he's riding an 8K. So the Pale Moon player opts to call 2 grade 2s, which is fine. Hits no trigger, very unfortunate. So because it hit, you I assume you swap. Yep. Swings again. Hits a trigger, which is very strong. So boost Vanguard. Probably a no guard for one to pass. Hits the trigger and it's another heal. Decides to put on the Vanguard to make it hit. He does not heal because he's at 2 and hits nothing. That's a heal which is very strong as well. Puts on the Vanguard and it is the Granblue player's turn. Let's see what he can do. He might have to stride with like 2 cards or something. If he can stride at all. Right? He can't stride. That's really, really bad. So, swings at the side. Debatably here you don't ride. Still PGs, which is very, very interesting. So debatably you don't ride just because you don't proc their you don't give them first stride, and first stride is somewhat strong in this deck apparently. Because of line and so forth. So it was very unfortunate for the Grand player again because he wasn't able to stride. He does have G guard, which makes it a little bit better, and then now he has grade 3, which means he can stride. But yeah, I guess it's not bad that he rode because he can get rando poked by the 2 rear guards on the side, and for triggers. But we'll see. Was it worth it? So, unfortunately, kind of for the Pale Moon player, he's not like on the correct grade 3. It might be correct, it really depends. But I don't think he's cross ride. So, strides into Luke here. Probably calls things. So, calls the second line because line is very strong. Zelma puts the grade 2 in the soul and calls something out. The starter. Counterblast 1 using for the grade 1 still to call it out. So it uses the skill of the starter. Top 5 for 1, 2, 3, I assume, and put it into the soul. Maybe 0, I don't remember. To be honest. Grabs a 1 and 2. Pretty good because that's the second Zelma. Does Luke here not counterblast? I guess not. Soul charge, call. That's actually really interesting. I guess he just wants to like put things so alive. But I should have counted the line. I'm so sorry, guys. Pretty good soul charge. So the Pale Moon player is across right now. Um, cards that went. So hits a draw trigger, puts on the side, and just a draw trigger again. So 1 damage hits the second starter. The grade 1 goes in soul. Pale Moon player might have forgotten to discard. I'm not entirely sure. This is kind of lagging, so I'm not sure if you guys will be seeing this. But my computer is currently lagging a little. Sorry, guys, if it is. So swings, yeah. Pale Moon player forgot to discard, which is very important because discarding 1 card can mean a lot. Yeah, so sorry guys. So my computer was lagging and it actually restarted like ridiculous. But let's get back to it. So Granblue player decides to G guard and then takes the next one. Stands and draws. He then proceeds to stride with into. What do you stride into here? If you really want to get rid of the cards, you can go into the board wipe guy. I forget his name. The new GR for the new set. Because retiring the lions are very strong, and he's also a cross ride, so your multi attacks don't do as much as it could. Again, it really depends on the Granblue player in his hand and stuff, but it depends. Regardless, let's see what he does here. So it's technically first stride, but he G-guarded, so you can go into almost anything, I think. Gauche is pretty strong here as well, even though he doesn't have the soul. He can, like... Or he doesn't have too much setup, as well. He can still try to do other cool plays. It really depends, again. Not entirely sure. So sorry guys, it may take a while, but the Granblue player just generally think it's smart to think out your plays. It's really good. Only problem is it's a little bit time consuming, but it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, striding, and we go into the again the GR. We knew. So on stride skill, calls out the Negro lazy. Kind of interesting. No Negro lazy skill. I guess they're just waiting. I forgot to pay counterblast for the unstride, so they're doing that now, I think. Or he's doing that now. So, Negro lazy skill. Soul blasting the King Serpent, very important, kind of. King Serpent gets called. Soul charge unflipped to negate the cost of the Negro lazy. Then we do call something, yes. So we call the weird hollow unit that like helps set up your GB2 plays. I forget what it's called. It's the Shade. Then proceeds. We'll probably activate the GR skill. Yep. So calls. Oh, I guess he doesn't decide to call the Shade. So he discards, calls up to 3. So calls the stand trigger. The another stand apparently looks like it. So bail and stand trigger. So you should be able to pop 2, which will probably be the 2 front row rear guards, because I think you have to call a hollow unit, and then bail's not a hollow unit, so you should pop 2, right? Or not. Maybe you pop 3. Let me check, guys, if that was a mistake or not. So many cards I know. Sorry about that, guys. It's really like I guess I don't know if it's confusing is the right word, but it depends on the I don't know. I just don't know all the effects. So let's just make sure he was doing it correctly. I thought that you have to like call hollow units and it kills for each hollow unit that was called, but maybe not. Again, I don't play either of these clans, so it's not. It really depends. That swings for a decent amount because it was probably boosted by at least one of the ghosties. It's like drag it. So he takes this side. He puts him to 2, swings Vanguard, pretty generic. There's not too much like cool plays you can do here as Granblue because you don't have any of the grade 1s. You just kind of have to swing. So he goes to 3 because 0 triggers were checked. And that should also be pretty big. So he decides to guard it. So then hollow units proc. Those 2 stand triggers will go back. It depends on like what he wants to do first here. So like Negro, lazy, and then the other 2 will go back or will die. But it depends on if you want to use the soul charge skill first. Over the soul charge on flip skill first over the putting back. And there might be like a little bit more shenanigans you can do here. It really depends on what he wants to do. So I have the stride here, skill here. For each unit with the hollow ability that was called, your opponent chooses one of his or rear guards and retires them. If your opponent has no rear guards, draw a card. So misplay a little bit there on that opponent's side. He might have scooped because he misplayed and changed game state. I didn't see what happened right there. I think he scooped because he realized that Bell was not a hollow unit. But I'm not too sure. I guess I'll just recheck in and then let you guys know a little bit later. But yeah, we are supposedly on to game 3. Give me a minute, guys. I'm gonna go check what just happened. And yeah. What's up, you guys? Sorry, so I'm back. The reason why he scooped was after reviewing and stuff was because, again, like I said earlier, he misplayed on the drag it skill or whatever you call the guy. Bell wasn't a hollow, so he couldn't retire 3, which means he couldn't draw. And because he couldn't draw, it altered his drive check state, and so because of that, he decided to scoop, which is very honorable on the Granblue player side. So shout out to him for realizing his mistake and then going off it by giving the game to the Pelman player. Because it did alter game state, it could have been reversible, maybe. Not really. It's kind of hard because you have to assume that the Granblue player is self-righteous in that he put the right card back to the deck that that he drew, or change the card that was called if he even had another hollow unit. So, you know, there's not really too much you can do there. It really depends on the judge and stuff, but he just scooped that game because he did misplay a bit, which is cool. So yeah, we're on to game 3 now. And intense rock, paper, scissors, or Junken. I believe the Granblue player goes first. Yeah. So I guess in the future, guys, what I should probably be doing for recording is keeping the sound audio in as I record and commentate, and then in the future like taking that part out after. But my computer's so junk that it resets like every single time and crashes, so I don't know. Let me know if you guys know how to fix it. It's like kernel panics or something. Let me know, guys. But anyways, Granblue player rides PG and passes. Starter goes behind the Vanguard. Very interesting. PG is also ridden, and starter goes into the soul for its effect. Puts a grade 1, 2, and 3 in the soul. I see the grade 1, the really strong grade 1, decent on hit grade 2, and no grade 3. So not bad. On the Pillman player's part, shuffles, and yeah. That's basically it. So yeah, guys, sorry again if this will be uploaded late. It's because my computer is just absolutely junk and resets every single time. But yeah, drive check, no booster, no guard, and no trigger. Rides to grade 2, hopefully. Yup. Cannoneer gets ridden. Crit goes in the soul to draw a card. Another crit goes in the soul, draw a card. Sets up for Gauche, or Gash, or whatever you're gonna call his name. I actually don't know how to pronounce a lot of Vanguard names. Just kind of sad. So you probably commit a bit more here so you can push. Again, that's my assumption. I'm not entirely sure, but Granblue players generally like to rush decently hard because they're Granblue, and yeah. So yeah, calls a Columbard, swings for 9 to the 6. It's guarded for a draw trigger, and then hits nothing again. Rides on hit, as always. On hit is pretty good. Calls another on hit, so either you're not taking damage or you're using a skill. On hit to call one. It's kind of weird because he has funky things to call, so that's why you swing the rear guard first in case it hits. But it doesn't. Vanguard swings. Drive check reveals a crit. That's 2 damage. Heals, which is very, very good. That's a GB2 Nightrose into the drop zone, which can set up your play. You call a... Oh, yeah. He put a grade 2 in the soul, but it doesn't matter because the Granblue player hit a trigger, so... Yep. And then he doesn't have Counterblast for the other skill, assuming it's not GB. So yeah, that's basically it. He basically paid Counterblast for no reason, which is kind of unfortunate, I guess, for the Pale Moon player, because he forgot that the trigger was hit, but... Yep. So ride Nightrose. Again, you could, if you want, not ride and like swing at the rear guard or maybe swing at the Vanguard, but not riding isn't riding is okay because you can do this and you have a heal trigger for GB2 skills such as that Nightrose in the drop zone and whatever other strides you want to go into, like Drag It or whatever his name is, the board wipe. So swings 15. Doesn't have any skills because it's GB guards. That's a 21 at the Vanguard. Draws a crit, which is unfortunate. Hits another crit. That could have been double crit, but it's not, and it's totally fine. So swing 14 at the Vanguard, just to push early. And the rear guard is kind of mediocre anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. Because yes, it's on hit, but like later game, it doesn't matter that much. And you want the lines in the front row rear guards anyways. So ride the cross ride without the cross ride, or without the base. Strides into probably Lucaire. It's the only stride we've seen so far. It probably might only be the only stride we'd ever see, because Lucaire is a pretty good card. Maybe we'll see the new stride. I don't actually know what it does, so maybe I can look. But the old Lucaire is pretty good too, so that's what it's called. Then I see the other on hit. Check Soul, because lines are important for this game. So both the cards go in Soul. Soul Charge 2. And we call 2. What do we call? Is it just 2 on hits again? He was probably hoping for Lion. The grade 1 will eventually come out because of the broken grade 1, because of the skill to call itself for Counterblast 1 when something gets called out of the soul. So I see a Zelma and a on hit Silverthorn thing, and then Counterblast 1 for the girl. Yep, the grade 1, the broken grade 1. Zelma procs, and I think that's a starter comes out, and then the grade 1 again procs, which calls herself out again. So that's why it's broken. It must not be once per turn, or it resets at the very least. Yep. So he might have accidentally put a card in the soul from his like damage or whatever. I'm not entirely sure, but he uses the starter to get better soul. Nothing goes in the soul. That's really interesting. It's possible that he just hit like all triggers or something. It was unfortunate. Regardless, it goes in soul anyway, so it's, yeah. Probably you'll swing with Vanguard first. Doesn't look like he has a lot of cards in hand. Maybe he swings with rear guard. That's interesting. It kind of makes sense, but I would swing. Yeah, I would swing Vanguard first. Um, no guard. I assume that's a heal. It looks like a heal, and it is a heal. Yep. Nothing and crit. So crit heal, which is very strong. Uh, hits a double trigger on the side again. Um, Vanguard's 21. Granblue players Vanguard's 21. To the opponents, I assume 26 ish. So it's a 10k guard. But he has the grade 1 in proc, so he can use it if he wants to. It's discard 1, put in soul, call 1 card, which isn't bad because it's gets another attack for discard 1, and then it goes back to the soul, so it can't be retired. And it can use its skill like a lot more. So let's see what's going on, guys. He decides not to, and that's fair. It's very understandable. Vanguard attacks, or rearguard attacks the Vanguard with on-hit pressure, and that's 10k guard. He decides to G-guard it, which is very smart because you want to proc your GB2s as early as possible. That's a very good mill. That's a 16k attacker, and I think it's Negro Bone in the drop zone, which is very, very good. And I think the Granblue player knows it. That was very good. That was very good. So Granblue player checks the soul again, just to make sure. I don't think any lions were soul charged, which is very unfortunate for the Pale Moon player because lion is a key part of your combos, as well as there's like a mini lion that got released in the set. I don't know if the Pale Moon player is currently running it though, but it's very good. Regardless, just have to think what you're doing here. I think Gauche might not be the option, just because your drop zone is almost set, or you already have a board, and like, even though your soul is very good, there's some other things you can do. You can try going to Dragoid again, but you really want that grade 1 out. Again, Nightrose can call it. Maybe Negro Songer is the correct call here, because he is at 3, and you want to kind of push damage, because he doesn't have a big hand, and it's very possible that he might lose here if you push hard enough. So, although these games look somewhat short, it's kind of long because each Granblue players can be pretty slow, like Lured players, where the game could either be short or long, but there's so many things you can do that you have to like think about it. And then Lured as a deck just is slow, and you need to be faster because you just draw and you don't have like a big push. Anyway, stride here. I see a Gauche. Very interesting. So Counterblast 1. This Soul Blast 1. Checks how many he wants to call. It looks like just 2, maybe 3. Decides to Soul Blast. It looks like 3, 4, 4. Calls. I assume the Negro Bone, because Negro Bone's a good card. I also assume that the. That's interesting. Why would you call over? Okay. Thank you. Calls the Cannoneer. He forgot to flip flop, but you're supposed to, so probably calls the Negro Bone behind the yes, as well as the crit behind the Vanguard, which is fine because you want the thing into the drop zone. You can't call that though, so you need to call something else, and another crit, which is good. Placement wise, that is a lot better than the other side because you get a booster, and you're currently. I don't think you're facing a 13k Vanguard, but you might, so just in case. I don't remember, but as always, you can always just attack Rearguard. It doesn't matter too much here. But if he decides to take it and you swing at the Vanguard, then it's totally fine. I think that might have been another crit that he just drew, which is kind of unfortunate. So Granblue player is currently deciding if he wants to like call more crits, and if it's a Nightrose crit, that's totally fine because you just get more power at the very least. But you could just save it for guard. It depends if you want to set up for soul. Yep, so uses a crit, which is fine, and then another crit. So he will be drawing 2. 13k should swing first. I'm not sure if you should be swinging both rear guards and activating skills. Swings 9 at the rear guard, which means he will be using the other skills on the right, the rear guard skills, before he swings with the Vanguard, which is totally good, because you get like multiple attacks off and etc. And your stance proc, which is very cool. So he decides to take it, which doesn't make sense because I thought he swung with the rear guard. Oh no, I'm sorry. Gauche gets plus every card called with Gauche gets plus power for each card that was called, so it's an 11. So he swung 11 at the rear guard, and then he decides to guard it with 10k, which is very weird, but it's okay. It's kind of understandable. Normally, if you're gonna take, like, if you're planning on taking one, either take the first one, but if the second one's bigger, you take the second one. And because he didn't boost, you have to assume that he's going to call the other rear guards. So anyway, sorry. The Pillman player has 4 cards in hand, which means you should be pushing relatively hard because he is already at 4. So again, more thing on the Granblue player side because it's very understandable. Here, I think I would have used the grade 3 skill to call like a the Negro Lazy, and then Negro Lazy skill to call something else. That's a thing, yeah. So he did it kind of weird, but I think you get the example of what he did. I guess he just didn't use the grade 3 skill. Or I didn't use the grade 1 skill and just use the grade 3. Grade 3 into Negro Lazy. Which is very good because he can then do like something else really cool. If he decides to do it. So one of the cooler plays you could have possibly done here is actually maybe I don't have like any problems with it at the moment. That's possibly 16 because the crit is a 5k because of the 2, and then that's an 11, so that should be a 16. So 10k guard from the Pillman player unless he wants to take it. Yeah, so the Pillman player currently could have just like intercepted with the first one for the Cannoneer swing and then just 10k'd it. It really depends. I guess the Granblue player really likes doing this play where like after this he might just swing Vanguard and then hope for a stand and then have more plays after that. Which is fair. It's very understandable. G guards a 11k or a 16. That's like okay, check soul. I assume he's taking the Vanguard then, hoping for no crit. There's another play if it matters. It depends on if he's running the G guard or not, but I think what you can do is I think they wrote a PG, so the Pillman player can like PG from soul using the new G guard. That's a rare, but he'd have to discard one more card. But you can guard the Vanguard and be like a little bit more safe. So that is an option that you could have done. Debatably you don't, and you just take it or whatever. But yeah, unless he already has a PG in hand, then it's okay. So checking drop zone. There's a lot of crits out already, so it's possible that he just won't hit any crits. So I guess just checking in. I don't exactly remember the exact amount of crits that was put out, but there's a decent amount that was put out. So there's a stand. Probably stands the I think you stand the Negro Lazy because of the fact that you only have one counterblast available. Damage check. There's a draw trigger, which helps so much. Debatably he might have been dead. Swings for 21, which is a 10k guard. I think because I assume that the Granblue player is planning to call a booster behind the Negro Lazy, but That's very interesting. I assume he's just calling the starter to get the unflips. So there's another G guard. I don't know if he That's interesting. Actually, it's very possible that if that's a grade 3 in hand, that the Granblue player could have won right there because of the misplay on that part. Because he only has one card in hand. That's a 5k guard. But if he called the stand trigger, assuming that's in the drop zone, that would have been 10k guard. So if that's a grade 3 in his hand, then Granblue player could have pushed the game a little bit more. But setup is always nice regardless. Those two are hollowed, so they get put back. Soul Blast 2 to unflip. Or when it dies, you unflip 2, sorry. And then Negro Lazy, I believe, was hollowed, so you Soul Blast, Soul Charge, and unflip at the end of your turn. He's just checking again to see what's on the board, because if he has the heal, you can set up for the Cannoneer play where you like Denial Griffin it. So if he wants to use the GB2 here, he can. Regardless, the Pale Moon player is in a very bad spot, so yeah, but he decides to do it regardless because it's just generally a good play. Calls the Negro Lazy back. Negro Lazy skill. Soul Blast. Calls out the Cannoneer. Just to know, Negro Lazy does not have to be hollowed for it to get the skill to call something. However, you don't get the unflip and soul charge at the end of the turn. Regardless, because you're using the Negro, the Nightrose's skill, so at the end of the turn to call it back, you don't get the soul charge regardless, soul charge and flip regardless, because of like the way Bushiroad sees it as end of turn procedures, which is very interesting. It kind of just like gets wiped. Regardless, the Granblue player should be calling the Cannoneer, but the stand trigger is also a possible choice to call. But Cannoneer is very good. Instead, he decides to use the Cannoneer, which is very interesting at the moment, to pop and Soul Blast. Or sorry, not pop and soul, pop and draw. Which is also good though, because you're getting rid of the grade 1. And he didn't hollow the Negro Lazy, as I said, but he did hollow the Cannoneer because you have to. And yeah, very solid play in general. I guess he decided not to go off of the Cannoneer play. Regardless, you can't. No, you can't because you're out of Counterblast, or you don't have enough Counterblast. He only has one Counterblast open, so like any like cool shenanigans you can probably do with the G guard is gone because you don't have enough Counterblast for it. Even though you can call back the grade 2, the Negro Lazy, you just don't have enough Counterblast for it, so you can't do it. Any cool stuff. So strides into Lugia again. He strode with a stride fodder. Oh, he has a lot of cards now. Maybe he couldn't have pushed for game. I thought he had one card, but he must have not because that's a lot of cards now. Or that's a lot more than I thought originally. So Granblue player was probably right in like popping the grade 1 and stuff because I'm gonna kind of like neuter their plays that or attack powers that they could have done and the amount of strength that Pale Moon can possibly get. It's very unfortunate that he doesn't have any like lions in the soul at the moment, because they don't get power or anything, and he's also not on the stride bonus Lugia, so that doesn't get power. It's just kind of like multi attacks. So checks drop zone, probably for like triggers and such. Zelma gets called out, or not Zelma. Yeah, Zelma gets called out probably because he's using the grade. That what happened? I assume he used 2 counterblasts so that, like, I didn't see if he used 2 counterblasts or not, but he probably did. Where he did the play where he calls 2 and 1 is Zelma, and then he uses the grade 1 to call it back out, and then he uses Zelma's skill to put the grade 1 into the soul, calls out the starter, and then the grade 1 comes out after, which is again a very strong play. Kind of. It goes back, so it kind of like makes even, but you set up more for the next turn, and you thin your deck for possible triggers, so it's not that bad. Again, just thinking because like this kind of determines whether or not Granblue player wins or not, or I guess the Pelman player wins or decides who wins in general. Because this, I assume, should be the last turn of the Pelman player, unless he's like double heal or something. Then it's possible he's still in this, but it looks like he has about 2 cards in hand. So he'll end the turn with 5, around 5, maybe 4, maybe 6. Depends on the draw triggers and depends on if he wants to use the grade 1 skill. So checks drop zone again for triggers and what's out. Swings for 11, I think, or 9. It does have on hit. So if you want to use it on hit, it calls something out of the soul. Granblue player is kind of short for counterblast, so we'll see what he does here. I believe he has a heal in hand, so he probably will use the new G guard to get more cards in the soul. Or sorry, get more guard. At max it's 30k guard because it's the new one. It gets 5k power for every 5 cards in the soul. In the drop zone, sorry. So yeah. Looking like a decent game here. Again, they're just thinking because it really matters. So your top 4, next goes to top 2, and possibly win the box. So we are guarding the Vanguard manually, which means he might just not have a heal. That's a 2 to pass. That is a 2 to pass. They might just be like checking what could happen here. It's kind of unfortunate in a way that he attacked with the rear guard first for the Pan1 player because he neuters out all possible crits options that could be put on rear guards. The good thing is he makes it easier to put on the Vanguard, assuming he does. But the Granblue player might play around it. We'll see. It looks like he's not done guarding, so he's debating about guarding for 3 or making it a no pass. And seeing what possible options could be happening. So he decides to make it a 3 to pass, which is fair. Okay, he might be guarding for more. Again, not entirely sure, guys. We'll see. The damage he looks at, I assume he's at 4, but he could be at 3. No, he's at 4. I see it now. I see a 10k in hand. That's the other starter that he's running. He could have swapped it instead of the 5k for a 10k guard. Again, it's kind of different, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so 3 to pass. Hits a draw trigger. Where are we going here? Draws first, because that's important. 3 to pass. Got to hit 3 triggers out of 3. Somewhat unlikely, but he did, like, filter a bit to get there, hopefully. So we'll see where it goes. Safest place, obviously, is the Zelma, because 3 triggers is kind of a lot to hope for. He's also at 4. He puts on the Zelma, and that's fine. It doesn't hit trigger, so good call there. And doesn't hit another trigger, so just a draw. Uses the grade 1 skill, discard, put in the soul, call something out. Calls the Zelma, which is fine. It probably doesn't do too much. Oh no, I think it does. Call something out, and then you can use the grade 1 skill, right? To call it as a booster. In the back, yep. Good stuff. So he's taking out 1 more 5k guard from the opponent's hand, and that's an on-hit on the side. So, again, it's not very strong at all, but it's possible that it can work. So that's a 10k guard. It's 14. I don't think he wants to guard it here. It doesn't make sense to guard it. You can also use GB2 Nightrose skill if you really would need it. So I just don't think it's very necessary here. Because like if you, I think that if you don't guard it, it goes to the drop zone. Your GB2 Nightrose skill can activate. Then you use Negralaze skill and then call the Ghosty To the there it is. There it is. So he does it. Then he uses the Negro Lazy skill, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Call it to the back row so you can unflip Soul Charge after, and then call the stand trigger to give your Vanguard plus 10k. So that was a misplay on the Granblue player or the Pale Moon player's part, but it's totally understandable. Vanguard gets plus 10k now, so that is a 5k guard, and that's very simple. Again, like the Granblue player doesn't have Counterblast, but he will have one because of the Negro Lazy at the end of the turn. Regardless, I believe it should be game, because that was a very strong play, and kind of unfortunate for the Pale Moon player. So 5k guard. Size guard 10k, whatever. And end turn, those two hit drop. The Negro Lazy skill, Soul Charge, and then the Stand Trigger skill to go back to the deck. Very, very strong. Granblue is a very good deck, guys. Debatably, I'm pretty sure it might be over Gear Chronicle in terms of tier. They're both like tier 1, but I think Granblue might be over. So Negro Songer is called, and that's a big rear guard. I assume he's going into King Serpent here. If not, then Bill is almost as good, but King Serpent is solid. Soul Charge on flip. I think that was a heal, but that doesn't matter too much. That's a bail, which means you can get more cool plays. And that's a Negro Songer, so that's even cooler. So cool plays you can do here. Let's see how he performs them. So 14 first at the Vanguard. Granblue is ridiculous, guys. Like, one Counterblast option, you can get one free card, you can do cool stuff. Skill, hopefully calls a cool card, maybe just a 16k, and that's fine. But if he has another King Serpent, that's really cool too. So no second King Serpent, so probably just 16k attacker. Yep. So again, the Pale Moon player is probably just straight dead, but we'll see how this goes. I still like the play that he's doing here because it forces out a lot of guard, and he gets to do cool stuff where he like unflips and soul charges and unflips and stuff. Debatably, he shouldn't have called the King Serpent, just because you can leave more room for aggro and you can commit, and that's totally fine. That's really cool, and that's really interesting. So he uses Bail the Ghosty. Debatably, it's the same thing, but I still kind of like it, just because it's kind of weird. If he was going to do that, though, you should have just swung with King Serpent first, because it's a 10 because you called it with Nightrose. So you should have swung it first if you're going to do that. But I really liked it. Swings with Negro Songer, which means he's opening up for interesting, different plays. I think I would have swung with the rear guard first, just to like push more cards in the hand because your Vanguard's big and your rear guard will be big. But that's fine too. Regardless, I think the Pale Moon player loses here. I don't think there's too much he can do in general. He's at 5, no Counterblast available, not too much cards in Soul, and you're swinging a lot. So regardless, we'll see where this goes. He decides to no guard. He's at 5. It's fine. 2 grade 3s and a stand trigger, and stand trigger's broken. So puts it there. That goes to 6, and that's the game. So thank you guys all for watching, and yeah, I'll see you all later for top 2 finals.